Hey guys, it's Crossroads here. Today I want to talk to you about fake news, SoFi and Palantir. This week, both of these names, which I hold, have been hit by fake news. I want to talk to you a little bit about why and what goes behind that, what happened, the aftermath as well, the impact on the share price, and what I'm doing as an investor. And so let's take a look at these one at a time. Now, the first of these, let's look at Palantir. We can see Palantir is down about 6.5% today. Now, I've zoomed out quite a bit just to show you, like, hey, this is over the last year to date. We're up 132%. It shouldn't be surprising when stocks rise as much. Same with SoFi. When there's a bit of a pullback, especially Palantir, it's at a very rich valuation. I'll just put it that way. So anyway, what is the headline? What's causing this drawdown to 6.5% on a relatively stable macro day is a little unusual. And it's basically going on this. Now, this isn't the actual initial article that came out. Instead, Reuters posted something which got recirculated like it always happens. In the Reuters article, and I'll be fair with them, they basically say that there's this issue, and yet the Army had noted that it's been resolved immediately. Now, the bad thing is we live in the age of AI and algos and people that are social media influencers that are just trying to get out the word as fast as they can without any context at all. And as a result, really just the headline was captured. And so if we look at the Seeking Alpha article, this kind of takes a good picture of what that recapture looks like. So it says Palantir Anduril's battlefield communication system has issues, says Army memo report. And there's an update there, thankfully, as well. When this first came out, I'm like, okay, they're missing it. But in essence, there's a contract that Palantir, Anduril, Microsoft, which I don't know why they're not mentioned here. There's a little tag right there, Microsoft. Microsoft's not in any of the headlines. It's all Palantir and Anduril. I wonder why. But basically, that they're doing a prototype for the Army. It's a $100 million contract deal split over multiple parties. So not even really that big of a contract, especially when it's split in so many different ways. It's an early prototype. And what typically happens is the Army, as they go through, they test it very seriously for all sorts of different security issues. They try to break it, they try to crack it, they try to destroy it, anything that they can, just to make sure that they have a very resilient product at the end of the day. So as they do that, the aftermath is that they will write a series of memos. These are classified, these are not for public consumption, saying here's all the issues in this particular product. They don't want those out in the public simply because, you don't want China, Russia, your adversaries potentially to know exactly what your vulnerabilities and issues are. Even if they're corrected, it's better to just hide that. And so this was an internal memo that came out a month ago, actually, not recently. And we'll look at that more, but it's just making the headlines today. And so they said, hey, this prototype has fundamental security issues according to this memo. Again, it should have been an internal mark. And then they said should be treated as very high risk. That's all well and good. And then they note and they say, we cannot control who sees what. We cannot see what users are doing. We cannot verify that the software itself is secure, said the memo. As Army's CIO officer, Garcia stated publicly, this sounds really bad. It's like, oh man, there's also experimental phase of the NGC2. Findings mitigated immediately prior to field integration with the first division event, which proceeded successfully without delay. All that to say is a Palantir spokesman in an emailed statement to Seeking Alpha, thankfully Palantir's on the job. They're like, hey, we've covered this. It's fine. This was not in the initial release. And so anything that's recirculated Seeking Alpha or Reuters, for the most part, none of it has any of the context at all. And I'll look at an article actually that came out several days ago that says the same. Palantir software, which maintains impact level 5 and 6 authorizations, provides the Army with visibility and rapid conduct, comprehensive security assessments across the NGC2 ecosystem. No vulnerabilities were found in the Palantir platform. So in other words, this is them saying, hey, probably check Microsoft. Maybe Anduril, but I doubt it. Anduril does do some software, but it's mostly hardware. And there's other parties here as well. As you know, if you use any Microsoft products, there are usually issues. I think the government's well familiar with that. Anyway, it's a good catch by the Army. It's a good memo. The only thing that's really odd here is, of course, this being reported so late. And so here, this is Breaking Defense. It's a good place to go if you have questions on any military or defense-related subject. And so they had an article here. Look at this date. October 1st. So, it's October 3rd right now. This is from 2 days ago. And they said, hey, Army says it's mitigated critical cybersecurity deficiencies in early NGC2 prototypes, which again, the cybersecurity stuff, that's probably Microsoft. It is not Palantir. And so it goes through and it says, hey, everything is great. It says that in its current state exhibits critical deficiencies. This was back on September 5th. So basically a month ago. It says right here, the issues were mitigated immediately, not almost immediately, just right away. Boom. Streamlined cybersecurity processes were able to be quickly identified and assist a program officer and vendor in triaging cybersecurity vulnerabilities and put mitigation in place. And as you go through, you can see like what it was about, what happened, when the memo came, all sorts of different details. So again, something that's already resolved and taken care of almost immediately. It's usual to have issues. Now, these were pretty big issues, and it didn't even involve Palantir. So you would think, oh man, Microsoft is probably down big time. Isn't that right? Because this is clearly a Microsoft issue. Of course, it is fully resolved, so maybe it shouldn't be down. But if Palantir's down, maybe they are. No, Microsoft is actually up today. Not even going to show you that. Not important. So why do I think that this ended up making the waves? Well, I'm only guessing, but there are a number of people that have been very critical of Palantir and, of course, the United States government, beyond just foreign aggressors, adversaries. There's a lot of companies that would like to get some of these contracts. And so it wouldn't be surprising to see if somebody pulled some strings and got a memo to be released that paints Palantir in a negative light. Now, I think more likely than that, what's happened is just laziness and AI slop. People not checking and doing due diligence, just wanting to be the first to get it out there so that they get the clicks and they get the views. That's probably what happened here, more so than anything else. Although possibly, again, somebody pulled a string with Reuters and got them to dump that initial article, and algorithms and AI, and people took it from there. So nevertheless, Palantir, doesn't matter. Like, this is kind of fake news. You know, it's old news. It's a month old. Wasn't a Palantir issue. Fully resolved immediately. So no real cause for concern. So why are we then selling off, 6.75%? Okay, again, very expensive. And also, as we'll see with SoFi in just a moment, just because something is completely fake news, completely wrong, has nothing to do with your company, doesn't mean that even when that is cleared up, and I think for a lot of people still don't understand and know that this, A, wasn't a Palantir issue, B, it was a month ago, and C, it's fully resolved. They may not be aware of that, but even when it does not mean that the stock will bounce back. We've seen this before, although usually over the long term it does. Like, it doesn't change anything long term at all. It's not going to stop them from getting any other contracts. The SoFi news, though, let's look at that real quick. So the SoFi is down actually a bit as well. Not so much, a little bit down today. It's actually on a pretty big losing streak. Let's take a look. Okay, so here we'll zoom out to the last month. We see that we rode up all the way past $30 briefly, and we're now trading at about 25. And this is a pretty long losing streak. Now, this isn't too crazy. Again, looking at these year-to-date gains for SoFi, let's put that up with the S&P 500. And we can see that year-to-date, they're up 81% versus 15% for the S&P 500. Very, very good. Again, when a stock goes this fast and this hard, which is up almost 125%, it's not rare to see the RSI take a little bit of a breather. This, by the way, isn't the best interval for the RSI. Let me change that to daily. There we go. We can see RSI was really overheated here, and it's taking a breather. It's actually basically reset. It's neutral. So the fake news has been cleared up. It came out earlier this week. What was the news? In essence, it's this. Actually, this is the correction. So Upstart is kind of a competitor with SoFi. SoFi is a bank. It's more than a bank. It's a lender. It has a loan platform business. Upstart has said for the longest time, if you're wondering what Upstart does, and certain analysts were wondering that back in 2021, it is a lender. It uses AI and algorithm. I haven't seen any clear differentiation on the actual product for Upstart. It's a little bit different model than what SoFi does too. But regardless, I won't go into all that here. Nevertheless, there was an analyst group that was looking at numbers from Upstart, and they're like, oh man, there is a big issue with delinquency. So initially, they said that the original report published by BTIG on September 28th mentioned August weighted average 30-plus day delinquencies exceeding 11% and above the 6 to 8% range of delinquencies that have ranged between October 2022 and May 2025. this has continued to reflect August weighted average 30 plus day delinquencies across trust, increasing to 6.2%, up from 6.1% and 5.4% in June. So it's just Upstart, first and foremost. Second, this was used kind of as a proxy across the board for a bunch of lenders, not just SoFi, but a lot of them. And they said, okay, yeah, if the consumer is doing bad and the delinquencies are really spiking up, this is going to hit everybody. And so SoFi sold off. A lot of other names sold off as well, and they've not recovered. Now, the funny thing is two things. One is if you look at the FICO scores, the way the vintages are actually performing for SoFi, they have a great product that is clearly differentiated. You can see that also through the traction that their loan platform business is getting as well, which is ramping immensely. Maybe it slowed down just a little bit last month based on some like whisper numbers that are out there. But nevertheless, it's doing really, really well because it's a great product. Now, even if these numbers were right, it shouldn't have impacted SoFi that much. But then they came out just a couple days after and they said, hey, we actually were completely wrong. That the actual delinquency was, I read it actually before, 6.2% instead of 6.1%. So they reported 11.2% delinquency instead of 6.2%, which should not have freaked out anybody else. It was a massive, massive weird miss. Something that's very strange that they didn't double check it. They said there was something wrong with their system or the way it's tabulated. Maybe. But these things happen. Now, you can say that there's nefarious motives and somebody was short. And I'm sure the SEC, okay, let me rephrase it. I hope the SEC is looking at both of these. If there's people that are related to the people that are actually publishing these sort of things that have a short position or sold, right at the perfect time, they will be caught and they will be fined. They will hopefully be barred forever from trading, maybe even put behind bars as well. So, but it may also just be incompetence. Don't ascribe to malice what can be attributed to incompetence instead. And so either way, it doesn't really matter. We can still see that SoFi is down. Let's go in the 1 week. We can see that we're down about 12%, 11.5%. Again, part of this is some consolidation after that massive run. So what am I doing with this as an investor? So one thing is, SoFi was well covered. The Palantir one wasn't. And so I've been pounding the table and saying, hey, guys, read the actual article, read the note. Know that the only thing unusual here is that a memo was leaked, made public, and that an article came out a month later without much context, and other people perpetuated it rapidly from there with no context at all. That's pretty unusual. The only thing unusual for SoFi is like that's a really big miss for a firm to actually come out with numbers that are egregiously higher. They should have double checked those, especially like if you see a number that's way different and not expected, you need to double check and make sure it's right and accurate before publishing that. They didn't. So what am I doing as an investor? For Palantir, actually nothing. Nothing has changed for me. Long-term thesis is there. This is a much smaller position than it was a couple of years ago just because it's run up so much. It is still very expensive. I know someone in the comments is going to be like, oh man, it's so expensive. That's not what this video is about, but it is. I mean, they're right. I have this world's slowest DCA as it relates to Palantir, but it is still trading very richly. I'm not buying aggressively here. I'm just doing my very, very slow DCA into this. Now, if it falls a whole bunch off of this and we're looking at 140s, 130, still expensive, I will add a good bit. Now, SoFi is not as expensive. I actually think it's pretty fair value right here at 25.18. If we keep pulling back, and we pulled back, from above 30, I will be very happy because I have a long-term mindset on this company. They're going to post really, really good earnings. They have so many tailwinds that are going for them. I doubt that we actually continue to pull back to $20 or lower. If we do, I'll probably add at least 25% to my position. Some leaps, a lot of shares as well. But yeah, that's an opportunity as an investor. If you look and you see, okay, this is absolutely fake news. This is an old article, whatever. It's causing your stock that you're in a dip, 10%, 15% or more. And you know that it's fake. You know that it's wrong. You know that it's old. Even though when it's cleared up, it may not bounce back immediately. If you're wanting to add, that can be a great opportunity to add. I've done that before with companies. Sometimes these dips don't last very long either. I'm not saying buy the dip. I'm just saying these dips except other than just consolidation, are driven by irrational and fake articles. So let me know in the comments, has anything changed for you as far as SoFi and Palantir? Are you selling because you're like, oh man, it's going down? Are you saying, hey, I'm going to add more? Or do you have enough and you're just kind of like, okay, doesn't really matter. I'm just going to keep holding either way in these great companies. Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing. And until next time, happy investing.